Georgia edge rusher Mykel Williams is big. He's got long arms. He's physical and he's talented. But what position will he play in the NFL? We're going to scout him, talk about his pros and weaknesses and team fits, that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons. I'm an offensive draft analyst over at Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. Guys, as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We have a fun show. We are scouting the big long-arm defender from Georgia, Mykel Williams. What are some team fits? What's his projected position in the NFL? Then we're going to get into Notre Dame star safety Xavier Watts and talk about the same thing. What's his projected position, free safety, strong safety, and team fits? And then who are our coach him up prospects? Man, Keith, we haven't done this in a while, so we're bringing it back. But before that, guys, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. 6'5", 260 pounds, 34 3/8 on the arm, 10 1/4 on the hand. Keith, Mykel Williams, a guy that we knew he was going to be a little bit of a project coming into the season. He's going to play first year playing full-time edge. When you watch the tape, Keith, where are you with Mykel Williams as an edge rusher? Is he a first-round, top 32 grade talent for you? And what position do you think he fits best? Is he a stand-up edge or is he a hand in the dirt?
Yeah, this is fun. This would be fun. Let's have this conversation, this Mykel conversation. Will he be a top 32 grade for me? He will be a top 32 grade for me. Will he be a first rounder? That's the question, DP. And I'll say this, as of right now, no, I have him as a high second round grade, but that's a lot of this class. And part of that is due to the lack of overall production. And I'll probably land there. So even if he does get a first round grade for me, it's going to be a fringe first round, right? Yeah. Because we've seen with guys with lack of production, it can go both ways. You can get the Cleveland Farrell situation, right, where it's been a lack of production and it stays a lack of production. Or you can get the Daniil Hunter situation where there's a lack of production in college and then he winds up being on this all-time trajectory as a pass rush artist. Now, the thing is this, that when you're talking about spending a top 10, top 15 grade, I think that's when you want to move the threshold to like, the more I'm investing, right? And you say the more because that's the higher the pick, right? Like you get value points and stuff like that for your pick. The more I want to know what I'm getting, right? The more it should be a sure thing, right? I shouldn't spend a lot of money on something that I don't know what it is, right? Like that's how I feel about it. And so I look at Mykel and I see the flashes of it, right? But the consistency part, I don't even think, DP, there's enough reps to even see certain things like, okay, cool, what exactly is his bend around the edge? How many counter moves does he have, right? Like all of those things are going to come into play when you talk about these top 30 visits and these workouts and things like that. And unfortunately, nobody will be privy to those except for the NFL teams. Now, the reason I buy into him, I made this comp at the beginning of the season. I think this is where if I had to pick first of all, a body type and a career arc, it's Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary coming out of Michigan. He was a guy that, hit the scene. Everything was about potential and upside with him, right? And I have to pull up the stats, but I want to say his career stats, they were very slow towards the beginning, right? Like it took until probably about year 4 or 5 for him to turn it on and become one of the best pass rush, guys in the NFL and him to reach his full potential of what they drafted him, what the Packers drafted him out of Michigan, right? And so I can see a very similar thing. You want to put him in all of these different spots and things like that. But this is a guy who truly needs to develop, and develop is not a bad thing. It's just this what needs to happen for him to reach his ceiling.
I like the Rashawn Gary call out, Keith, because like you said, the beginning of his career was slow. and Green Bay Packer fans were not feeling the vibe within the first 2 years. He had seven total sacks from 2019 to 2020. In those first 2 years, it was year 3 where he took off, 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. He was stuffing the run, which I think that he was already a good run stuffer coming in. It was, hey, can we get you to being a true pass rusher? Mm-hmm. Going back to his combine profile, he came to the combine 6'4", 277, 34 and 1/8 on the arm, talking about Rashawn Gary. So very identical body types with length and height and weight and everything like that. And I think because with Mykel being 260, I think we had this conversation a couple months ago. It's like, is this a guy that you want to bulk up a little bit? Like, do you feel like you want to bulk him up just a tad? Now, granted, Rashawn ran like a sub 4.6 at 277. He was kind of a freakish athlete at that size, but I do think that if you're going to stand him up, you could kind of bulk him up a little bit to like 265, 270, and let him be like, remember, because I think they traded them midseason. They had Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, 2 long arm, big body guys who could hand in the dirt or stand up and rush off the edge.
Yeah, and I think Mykel, I'm looking on here now, right? Because I don't know if he ran at the combine. I don't think he did.
Ran at his pro day.
Yeah, he ran at a pro day, and it was a 4.73, right? So Rashawn may have been a little bit more explosive just flat out faster. But I mean, how many times your edge rusher running 40 yards in a straight line, right?
Right. Exactly.
So looking at it from that perspective, I they are very similar. But I like what Mykel can be. Now, we talked about the hand in the ground thing. I didn't fully think about that, DP. And I actually don't mind it. And it may give him a better opportunity for winning around the edge because you're kind of more in that track stance, right? To be explosive out of the blocks. And I think that's even a spot for him because even when he's handing the ground in Georgia, most of the times is he's kicked inside of the tackle, right? Like he's on the inside shoulder of the tackle. So you don't see him on those true arc reps, right? And you're talking about running the hoop and things like that. That's why you see that to see like, hey, at the top of the hoop, can they bend and get to the quarterback? So I think the hand on the ground thing could be a serious consideration because one thing coming out of Georgia, he don't know how to stop the run. So that'd be the first thing, right? You're getting the run defender. And then now it's like, okay, how do we teach him his bag to win as a pass rusher?
Yeah, and I think watching him, I think he can be a stand-up edge rusher as an outside linebacker style, 2-point stance and rushing. Like the bend, anybody that comes in thinking 6'5", 260 should be bending like Abdul. Like you're already fooling yourself. Like don't think that that's what bend. Bend should be subjective to the body type. Like I'm not expecting you. You're not Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett is one of the only true guys that's built that way that could bend like a smaller edge rusher. Like, but he's an alien. He's not normal. You know what I mean? Like he's just not a normal human being, and stuff like that. So I think I was watching which game I was watching with Mykel. He had a rush off the edge out of 2-point stance. He did like kind of a double hand swipe into a dip and rip. And when he dipped, I was kind of surprised when he dipped because I was like, is he going to be able to come out of that dip? Like, because he's a big dude, but he kind of just sprung forward. And instead of like we saw, like, you see the smaller guys, they hold at 90-degree angle and just flatten all the way around to the quarterback, where he dipped and he just kind of not pop up like a jack in the box, but he sprung forward past the tackle and I think he either got a sack or a pressure off of that play. And I was like, okay, that's how you can win the outside arc. And I think that's what you're talking about, the bag, like increasing his bag to where now you can work the inside track, the cross face moves. We know with 34-inch arms at his strength, you get him kind of wide, not all the way wide 9, but a little bit close to the wide 9, where he can like speed the power conversion and collapse the chest of the tackle, get easier access to a quarterback. Yeah, I think he absolutely can rush off the edge. And I think if you have edge rushers, like, for example, if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you selected Mykel, I'm not telling the Cowboys to do it, but if you're the Dallas Cowboys, they got a lot of edge rushers, Keith. They got Sam Williams coming back. They have Micah Parsons, who they refuse to pay. They got somebody else. They got a couple other guys. If you drafted him to kind of replace maybe Tank, like DeMarcus Lawrence, like Tank Lawrence, where you could then reduce him to that 4-eye, maybe some 3-tech, and get that advantageous matchup because he's a better athlete and he's got better wingspan than most interior offensive linemen. Now you get to really collapse the pocket from all four quarters of the offensive line.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. We're doing a whole lot of scouting in today's podcast, and we're giving the people what they want. They wanted our scouting knowledge. We're giving it to them, man. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Notre Dame safety. Xavier Watts, open up the scouting notebook. Let's talk about him. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are some scheme fits for him? What is the career arc for him? What do we see in Notre Dame safety Xavier Watts? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's all about finding the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Guys, it's very simple. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDON NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. Before we get into Xavier Watts, Keith, I forgot to say my team fits for Mykel Williams. I think, just real quick, teams I think that could be good fits for him. Detroit Lions at 28. I don't know if I want going to Baltimore. They have not developed these type of edge rushers since they've drafted them, like Odafe. No, stay away from. I don't want them to do that. Like, I think Detroit, I think Washington at 29 could be an interesting spot for him. And then, of course, the last two teams, Kansas City, putting them with Spags, or in Philadelphia, because Georgia, Philadelphia, they have that pipeline clearly. How they built their NFL defense, their Super Bowl winning defense with all those Georgia Bulldogs. If he slips too far and they're on the board, I can see him going to Philly. But I wanted to list, because that was part of the first topic I forgot to mention. Those are some of the teams I think that could be good fits for him in the first round. But Keith, let's get into Xavier Watts, man. Let's get into Xavier Watts, the do-it-all kind of safety over for Notre Dame. Came into the combine. I believe he came in at 6 foot. I'm pulling up his profile right now. Yeah, he came in 6 foot even, 204, 31 and a quarter on the arm, 8 5/8 on the hands. He did not do the athletic testing. I'm not completely surprised by that, Keith. When I watch him, this guy is super instinctive, high football IQ. He's got great ball skills, reading reactability. He's talking about you see like a Spags, right? Like, they lost Justin Reed. I think he went to New Orleans. He came to the Bayou over there with you, Keith, and he's gonna be over there with Tyrann Mathieu. That's a big loss for that safety room. Granted, they drafted our guy from last year, Jaden Hicks. I think it was last year's draft, 2024. They drafted Jaden Hicks, so I expect him to be there. But if you think about putting like Xavier Watts in that with a defensive coordinator like Spags, where you could disguise coverages and allow you, what was it, the 2024 playoffs where the Chiefs beat the Dolphins in that frigid cold game, and he had the safeties rotate in a way that you didn't expect them to rotate. And it was like, Spags is a mastermind. Like, this dude is evil. You know what I mean? With stuff he does to quarterbacks. And Xavier Watts is that type of safety, that strong safety. Yep. Guy that can play in the box, He'd be a +1 in the run game, but he can help you disguise your defensive pass coverage shells, and he has the ball skills to take the ball away and generate turnovers.
Yeah, DP. This is once again one of those conversations where it's funny because you led right up to where I'm going to finish it off at. And you went Kansas City Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo, and the comp I have for Xavier Watts is Brian Cook out of Cincinnati a couple of years ago. So yeah, so that's exactly my comp for Xavier Watts. So it's funny that you led it right up to that point. I was like, I hope you don't take my point. I hope you don't go there. But you didn't. But yeah, I see that, right? You talk about instinctive. Now let's talk about the question marks for Xavier Watts, right? And it's how fast is he? How fluid is his hips, right? Can this be a man-to-man safety? And it's like, okay, used to hearing man-to-man corner, but yeah, with so many slot fades, right? and those slot players being important, you need to have a man-to-man safety. And you think about the value of, and I guess people probably ask, okay, like, what are you talking about? The value of a guy like a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, right?
Yeah.
And Chauncey gets traded. He wins and then he gets traded, right? That's the routine for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But it's not due to talent. I feel like it's due to other things, right? It's other situations that allows Chauncey to get traded. But without a doubt, one of the best man-to-man playmaking safeties that we have in the game, and extremely underrated football player. Like the Houston Texans getting their hands on him, pairing him with Derek Stingley. And
Kalen Petrie coming back healthy, and
Petrie,
Kalen Bullock.
The rookie they drafted from Georgia.
Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah, Kamari Lassiter. That's crazy. Like, and my rant is Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter is going to be the best 1-2 cornerback combination in the NFL. Book it, send it. But back to Xavier Watts, DP. I think that it's about finding the right schemes for him, that to ones that doesn't consistently put him in man-to-man situations. So I like a lot of the exotic blitz stuff, right? Another team I think about could the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Because they run some zone concepts and like fire zones and things like that, to where they can put pressure on a quarterback, make them hold onto the football, and then Xavier Watts can read and react and then go make a play on the football. So it's different situations like that I see for Xavier Watts that he could thrive in.
No, 100%, man. Like just watching Xavier Watts, and I think, like I said, those are the questions. Is the long speed? Is like, okay, do we have to play you as like a pure box? And if you're not in the box, you're in the too high shell.
Well, conundrum isn't the conundrum that he came in at 204 pounds, right? That it's like, okay, like what is your real playing weight then? Are you 199 or you 210, right? Like which one are you more likely to go towards?
No, 100%. I think with him, man, like this is a guy that, he tackles well. I go back to the was it the national championship? Yeah, they did. They made it to Notre Dame. Made it. They played Ohio State. He had a one-on-one rep against Travion Henderson on either. I think it was a wheel route down. On open side, it was just them two one-on-one. He covered them well, knocked the ball free, and I was like, that's probably where you're gonna try and get him matched up on, is some of those running back routes out of the backfield. Maybe not the Jahmyr Gibbs, because that's just a different mover.
Nobody wants to cover him.
Nobody wants to have to cover that dude. Like, he's a different type of guy, right? With the movement skills, the speed and explosiveness, just different. But like getting him against, we see the wheel routes, the flat routes, the Texas and angle routes, stuff like that. He can cover those type of routes where you don't want him trying to travel and run stride for stride with a better athlete vertically, unless he can be. And we know how the NFL is. Like in college, they let these guys be handsy. They can push and like fight and hand check and everything mid-stem. You get past 5 yards, that flag coming out, legal touching. You know what I mean? Like legal contact. And it's just like, all right, man, how can we play defense in the NFL? But if he were allowed, if he could get away with it to be a little handsy, he can probably get away with playing some guys like some of those explosive running backs on wheel routes like he did with Travion Henderson. I just think this is a guy, low hole, strong safety. Thought about just putting him cover 3, him being in that robber technique, just being able to read, take away crossing routes, deep digs, shallow crossers, mesh concept is such a thing, because if you don't know how to defend it, it could slice you. And having a guy like Xavier Watts to kind of sit over the top of that mesh where that quarterback makes the wrong decision, it could be pick sixes. I think it was USC. Miller Moss threw a interception in the end zone to Xavier Watts. I think he took it back like 100 yards for a touchdown, man. So you know that he can go the distance once he gets the ball in his hand. Good physical player. I think he's just going to be kind of role specific as more of a strong safety than a free safety. Maybe some big nickel out of him, as a nickel defender, but he might be a guy, Keith, that you might say, you know what, let's take the backer off in nickel and dime and let Xavier Watts replace him. And now I got a athletic second level defender who has enough range from sideline to sideline where my linebacker can't do those type of things and take the ball away. And looking at Tankathon, like thinking about, just teams that you think could be a good fit. Kid, I kind of think, I'm not gonna lie, San Fran, and more so on day 2, they lost Talanoa Hufanga, like he went to Denver. They've lost a lot, honestly. Do some cap stuff. They've lost a lot, but I think being able to, in that Robert Saleh defense, I could see Xavier Watts having a big time impact in that offense, especially with their ability to get after the passer. They got to get another guy opposite of Nick Bosa. But Saleh knows how to call defense, and we saw how much he can keep the explosive plays from happening when he was in New York with the Jets, right? He put Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed in really good advantageous situations, played to their strengths. I think putting to potentially replace Hufanga, I'm not sure who their safeties are in San Fran. I have to look real quick, but I think that would be a really good landing spot for him, honestly.
No, I like that. I like that because they keep I don't say underrated, but underappreciated safeties, right? In San Fran, guys that simply get the job done. They have a very specific scheme in what they do and what they ask of their safeties, and they draft guys that come in, execute, play at a high level.
They got Jair Brown out of Penn State, and then they have Malik Mustafa, my guy out of Wake Forest, who I liked a lot last year. I was still, if day 2, I would have no problem drafting him because I think he could still be one of those that if you want to run that 3 safety rotation, and we're starting to see that a little bit more in the league anyway, with these safeties knowing how to cover, where you can get 3 guys on the field, and it actually is like having a big linebacker who had better coverage skills.
Yep, 100%. With DP, let's do this, man. A segment that we haven't done in a while. Coach him. We picking a prospect. We're drafting them. We're telling the coach, this guy has all the tools. Do your job, man. Coach him up, coach him up, coach him up. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to pick a couple prospects that we would select as GMs. Tell the coaches, go ahead and coach these guys up, and you have your pure thoroughbred starter. So we're going to talk about that. Come next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. A segment we haven't done, it feels like over a year, Keith. Coach up. Gotta get those prospects to these coaches and say, listen, you want a playmaker? I got one for you. Keith, I'm going to go to Kansas State. I'm going to go to my running backs, man. DJ Giddens, Keith. A guy 6 foot, 212. He came into the combine, ran a 4.43 with a 1.53 10-yard split. He was explosive, 39.5-inch vert, 10.10 in the broad. He ran a 4.33 20-yard shuttle. This is a guy that can play. He's one of the most elusive, dynamic backs in this class. The ability to make you miss in open space as a runner, but also in the passing game, you get him out and let him be a space player. I think where I want to coach him up, because we know, Keith, if you can't block, you won't get the rock. And I think his pass blocking needs a little work from a technique standpoint and things of that nature. Maybe also get a little bit stronger with the body, with his body profile. But with his ability as a runner, you want to get him on the field, man. You want DJ Giddens on the field, Keith. I think just coaching them up from a pass blocking situation where he can be a 3-down option for you, to where, yeah, we might bring you on the field. Because, Keith, how many times we watch NFL games, you know the running back was brought in to run a route, but they see blitz, and the quarterback's like, kill, I need you to stay in and protect me because they're sending more guys. We just don't know where it's coming from. You can't have a running back there that's a liability because your quarterback's not going to be happy when he gets teed off on by 2 defenders and they turn him into an ice cream sandwich. We don't want that, right? You know what I mean? So I think DJ Giddens has the potential to be a legit starter at the NFL level, man. Kind of similar a little bit to James Cook, but just a little bit but more explosive of an athlete and more wiggle to his game as well, man. I think he could be an RB1 in the league if he was given the chance, but you got to pass protect a little bit better than he does right now.
Yeah, so I pulled up DJ Giddens, like his height and weight, right? Because I knew he reminded me of somebody. I don't know the official NFL combine measurements. Listed at 6'1", 212 pounds, right? But I'll say this, you know who he reminds me of? Rachaad White out of Arizona State a few years ago. A big body bag, smooth mover, right? And I think that honestly, I think he's more explosive than Rachaad White.
100%,
I think
he's for sure.
He's just flat out faster than Rachaad White. So a high level player, and then and I think what you said matches, right? Because Rachaad White was the Tampa Bay Bucs starting running back. So you're talking about Rachaad went under the radar as far as running back selected, but he ended up growing a role and evolved and was like, hey, he was their starter at some point. Now Bucky Irving came in there and dismantled a lot of things, but I think DJ Giddens has more upside because he's a faster back. Like his athletic ability is higher. So I think about Rachaad White when I do that.
Real quick, I do have the combine measurements for Rachaad.
Yep.
They're almost spot on, Keith. Like Rachaad, 6 foot 214. He ran the 4.48, jumped 38, 10.5 in the broad with a 1.59 10-yard split. They're very like size, athletic profiles from the combine are nearly identical.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right, let me go with my guy real quick. I had to go to the DBs. We talking about coaching them up. I'm going with Virginia Tech corner Dorian Strong. This guy is long. He has length. Press man. We seen him at the Senior Bowl, right? And I think that you potentially have a starting corner that can play both zone and man on the outside and be very disruptive with his length. He can run. I think there's a lot there, DP. Just needs technique to be cleaned up because early on, remember, all of the focus is on his teammate, Mansour Delane, who didn't enter the draft, but he decided to transfer to LSU. And then he came on late to the scene as far as the draft scene. But very talented guy, can make plays. I think there's a lot there when we're talking about drafting him and developing this young man.
No, I liked him a lot. Physical is the first word that pops off that you write down. He wants to reroute guys. He wants to redirect you. He wants to beat you up in the contact window. And I think just working on just the little nuances of playing the position, not being overly physical. Because you get up to the line of scrimmage against a Justin Jefferson, or I always like Jamar Chase. He invites that type of physicality just so he can clear you. And when you have 4.4 or 4.3 speed, go ahead, because once I beat you and get you and I get vertical, it's a house call unless you got a safety back there. Sometimes that don't matter either. So, sometimes that doesn't really matter because I'm really good after the catch. So I think that, coaching up his process on knowing when to pick his spots to be so physical at the line of scrimmage, because you see two-hand jamming, different things like that. And then also don't be too grabby. Don't, especially in the NFL level. Like I said, college lets these guys play. The NFL, they see one finger on the receiver down the field, flag. It's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Spot foul, pass interference. And it's like, you just hurt your team, but it's not even so much you hurt your team. It's just the league rules hurt your team because you can't play defense the way that you like. I think this guy has a really legit starter upside. And with his size, 6'1", right? Was he 6'1"? His arms came in shorter than I expected. He's like almost 31 inches, but he's 6'1", like 185, almost 190, strong and physical. Those reps at the Senior Bowl, if you didn't watch him, please go check him out. He was putting cats in lockup. He was putting them in jail.
Yep, 100%. And I think you hit on a thing with him, and that's just the discipline, right? Down in and down out. That a discipline, not to become grabby, and understanding the game, and that's just
the NFL game, baby.
Yeah, yep. That's just gonna be a good DB coach, but I think he has upside to be one of the better corners in the NFL. If they get it right, if they get the right defensive back coach with him. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parsons. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. And come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.